think we're ready to start. I've got my Kleenex in case we need a Mattie cry cam. My name's Mattie Lord, and it's my pleasure to be here to celebrate with all of you today Project H3 and all of our accomplishments, our collective accomplishments to date. I'm just really, really thrilled. This is a wonderful, wonderful celebratory day. So thank you for coming in. Let me see if I can work my PowerPoint. Okay, I'd like to start here with just a little interactive game here. So I've got a series of pictures. And if you recognize who's in the pictures, would you please just shout out who you see?
Lucy!
Charlie Brown.
Charlie Brown.
Thanks for working.
I heard a whole bunch of names. That would be Charlie Brown and Lucy. Let's see if we do better in this one. Rocky Balboa. It's Hoosiers, yeah.
Turtle hair.
Tortoise in the hair. And the last one?
U.S. Misery.
Anybody know what year it was?
1985.
1980.
Oh, 80.
U.S. hockey team.
Miracle on Ice.
Beating the Russians. If you haven't noticed,
seen Miracle on Ice, the movie?
Here and all the pictures that I selected to represent today, they're all underdogs. The definition of an underdog, according to dictionary.com, is a person who is expected to lose in a contest or a conflict, or a victim of social or political injustice. And I thought, how apropos for today when we talk about Project H3. And research shows that 81% of the people root for the underdog. Now, when do 81% of us agree on anything? I think that's probably part of the magic of H3 that brings us all together to agree on helping the underdog. It tugs at our heartstrings, it incites passion, and it brings us together as a united front. And speaking of underdogs, I'd like to talk a little bit about some real-world underdogs. This is what I call the Grand Canyon of homelessness. And those of us who are housed live on the rim of the canyon. We live above the canyon, comfortably, without needing a whole lot of assistance for the most part. Folks that are unfortunate enough to be facing eviction or foreclosure are kind of cliff-hanging. They've got maybe the tips of their fingertips on the top of the canyon and they're hanging over the edge. And we have quite a few programs in place and providers who are willing to help give them a hand and pull them back up onto the rim. They might just need a month's rent or some help with credit repair, but they're hanging just below the ledge. And then you have people that are actually in the Grand Canyon of homelessness, and those are the people that are desperately clinging to the sides of the canyon, who maybe have additional complicating factors, a loss of a job, maybe a substance abuse issue, a mental illness. And then below them on the canyon, you have people who have several of those issues. Maybe poor credit, maybe poor criminal background, loss of a job, maybe no education, a substance abuse issue, and a mental health issue. And so the further down in the canyon you are, the harder it is to get out. Now, I've never hiked it myself, but I assume that to be true. Has anybody in this room hiked the canyon? Actually hiked down in? And it senses to reason that the further down you go, the harder it is to get back out. And ironically, in our system, the further down in the canyon somebody is, the fewer resources are actually available to help them get out. So it's really ironic that the people who need the help the most are the ones who have the fewest resources available to them. And we've known this for years, those of us in the industry. I know all of you have known this for many years, that there are people not only low in the canyon, but there are actually people rafting down at the bottom of the canyon. And we know them by name. We've known them for many years. We know Myron. We know the great white whale. We know Lisa. We know Svetla. They're all at the bottom of the canyon. They've kind of given up hope. It's too hard to get out of the canyon. They can't do it on their own. And there hasn't been a system of service to help get them out of the canyon. So we've all known about this, but we just didn't know what to do about it or how to approach the problem. And so, on June 9th, in 2009, the LA Times ran an article about Venice Boardwalk and some work that Common Ground was doing on the boardwalk. And Andy Hall stumbled across that article, being worried about the underdogs in the bottom of the canyon, and he forwarded that article to me. And I wrote back to Andy, and I wrote, and I think this is so funny today, I wrote, and I quote, "I'm so jealous. I wonder if we could get a PHA, which is a public housing authority, any PHA, to give us one Section 8 voucher so we could try something." I was dreaming big, wasn't I? One Section 8 voucher. Let's try to house one person from the canyon, just one. So Andy took it upon himself to contact Becky Canis, who we're fortunate to have us with here today. She's from Common Ground in New York at the time. Now she's in LA. Andy contacted her and found out that she was going to be in Tucson, and she was willing to sit down and meet with a few of us. She said that we could have 45 minutes for free in Tucson, or we could pay her $1,000 for a full-day training. So we said, great, we'll take the 45 minutes. So there were 9 of us that drove from Phoenix down to Tucson to meet with Becky that day. And I'll just name them real quick. Randy Nee, John Wall, David Bridge, Nick Margiotta, Carrie Mazda, Teresa James, Jackie Taylor, Andy, and myself. We met with Becky, and since I wasn't thinking so big with my one voucher, it's a good thing that Becky was, because she literally breathed life and inspiration into us and transformed the way that all of us thought. And we came back so energized from that meeting that we were able to recruit so many other people to our efforts. We were excited, enthusiastic, transformed, and we grew and we grew. So we formed an implementation team and recruited others to our efforts. We set up subcommittees, 10 of them to be exact, and we were off and running. We decided we weren't quite big enough, so we needed to have Becky and her enthusiasm come back out. So we invited her to the state conference, where we offered an open invitation for anyone and everyone to join our efforts who wanted to participate. And we recruited even more people to our subcommittees, and snowball grew. Then we signed on to the national campaign, which was really valuable because we were able to share the innovations that we were experiencing and also learn from other communities and their innovations. And then April 19th, we conducted our survey week, where we recruited 163 volunteers who met right here at 3:30 in the morning, 3 mornings in a row, which is absolutely remarkable. How many of you served for survey week? And how many of you would do it again? Wasn't it an amazing experience? We conducted 262 vulnerability index surveys that week, and then we rank ordered them by medical vulnerability. And on May 26th, Troy moved into his apartment and the housing began. It's been an absolutely amazing journey. We've really done what we set out to do. We've saved lives and we've changed systems because we housed 50, not one. Not my one, but 50 is a bigger demonstration project. And we had 3 non-negotiables that I think are worth mentioning. What we did different in Project H3 that hadn't been done before, as I said, we had no system for getting people out of the canyon. One, we worked with anyone and everyone because they were medically vulnerable, not because of their entitlements, their resources. Whoever you are, regardless of your criminal background, your citizenship status, your barriers, your lack of resources, regardless of what programs you were eligible for, we chose to work with you. We worked with you because you were medically vulnerable and needed our assistance and were living at the bottom of the Grand Canyon of homelessness. The second non-negotiable was that we offered them a permanent home, not a shelter bed, not a program. So we said, hey, would you like a home? Like really an apartment of your own? That hadn't been done before, or on a very, very limited scale. And the third thing we did is that we designed a support system, a new support system, a new system for delivering service that worked for them. So we took the functions of an outreach worker, combined them with the functions of a case manager, and added in the functions of a friend, and we put them all together and we named them navigators. And that navigation service has been what's made all the difference in getting them out of the canyon, up to the room, and keeping them. That's been the kingpin of our operation. And so getting the most medically vulnerable people from the very bottom of the canyon back up to the room and keeping them there was a monumental task, one that required the active participation of so many people, governments, agencies, programs. And as we thought about the people who've been involved over the last 2 years, it was really astounding to think of all the tentacles into the community and the number of people whose lives we've affected as well as whose lives have affected the project. Our participants, our volunteers, our navigators, our funders, our sponsors, our Facebook friends, and our other fans, all of you have contributed in an active and meaningful way, and we couldn't have done it without you. We're so grateful to you for your investment in Project H3. Thank you for making the investment in our local community against all the odds. That was my timer. That's right. I can't stop it. Okay. And now I'd like to invite the magnificent Becky Canis to the stage to share a little bit about the national perspective. So thank you. Give yourself a